Welcome to Recap Planet. Today, I'm going to recap an American science fiction action film from 2004 named I, Robot. In the year 2035, robots with human-like appearances are commonly used as public service providers. These robots are programmed with the 3 laws of robotics, which dictate that they must never harm a human or allow them to come to harm, always obey humans unless it conflicts with the first law, and protect their own existence unless it goes against the first or second law. Del Spooner is a detective in the Chicago Police Department who is assigned to investigate the death of Dr. Alfred Lanning. Lanning was the co-founder of US Robotics, USR, and the leading roboticist in the company. His death was ruled as a suicide as his office was sealed from the inside, and he was alone. However, Spooner knew Lanning personally and believed otherwise. He discovered a small holographic projector that instructed him to ask the real question about Lanning's death. To help him with the investigation, Spooner seeks the assistance of a robot psychologist named Susan Calvin. Together, they question USR employees, including the CEO and co-founder Lawrence Robertson and the supercomputer VIKI, Virtual Interactive Kinetic Intelligence.
Virtual Interactive Kinetic Intelligence.
Vicky.
Good day.
Spooner examines Lanning's office and concludes that a man of his age could not have broken the security window. While searching the room, he finds a copy of Hansel and Gretel and a prototype of the new Nestor Class 5, NS5, model. The NS5 model tries to flee and ignores Spooner's order to stand down,
Deactivate!
violating both the first and the second laws of robotics. Spooner and Calvin drive to the Nestor Class factory, the place where all NS5 robots are automatically manufactured. The factory produces 1,000 of them each day. Calvin checks the data logs from the last shipment and realizes that 1,001 NS5s were made, indicating that the rogue robot from the office was intentionally created. They enter a large room filled with robots, and Spooner tries a hostile approach, drawing his gun, and ordering all the robots to stand down.
Robots! You will not move. Confirm command. Command confirmed.
He wants to see which one will violate the second law to stop him from shooting it. Spooner notices the rogue robot moving slightly in the line and chases it, but the robot subdues him. The Chicago SWAT team then subdues the rogue robot when it tries to escape. The robot, later identified as Sonny, refuses to respond. But it insists on being called Sonny. When Spooner provokes him, Sonny shows traits that are impossible for a robot to exhibit, such as anger, sentience, and the ability to dream. This puzzles Spooner and makes him question the robot's true nature. Lieutenant John Bergen debriefs Spooner and advises him to drop the case because Robertson wants the robot back at the USR headquarters for demolition. However, this only increases Spooner's interest in Lanning's death and the robot. To learn more about Lanning's past with USR, Spooner visits his house. He finds a decommissioned robot scheduled to demolish the house at 8 a.m. the next morning. While investigating the house, he discovers a recording of Lanning, who talks about ghosts in the machines. Lanning claims that robots could evolve to develop sentience and declares that one day, robots will have secrets and dreams. While investigating the house, Spooner notices a sensor strip, the same one used in the USR building. Suddenly, the robot changes the schedule from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., causing it to demolish the house with Spooner still inside. However, Spooner manages to escape. Spooner visits Calvin to share his suspicions about Lanning's death and the robot. Calvin finds his suspicions absurd as she questions the ability of robots to be hostile. Spooner argues with her over the possibility of robots being superior to human beings, showing his dislike for robots and their cold, rational behavior. Calvin, who is an introvert, defends the robots, stating that their behavior is created to be flawless. Spooner, angry, leaves her apartment and heads back home. Bergen tries to stop Spooner. Bergen attempts to persuade Spooner to take a break from his work and go on vacation because he believes that the case is having a negative effect on him. Despite Bergen's advice, Spooner is determined to continue his investigation. While driving his car, Spooner requests VIKI to show the last 50 messages between Lanning and Robertson, but VIKI has been programmed to inform Robertson of Spooner's requests. While driving, Spooner is blocked by 2 USR automatic trucks filled with NS5 robots, and a swarm of robots attack his car. Forcing him to flee into the surface tunnel, where he crashes. Spooner is unable to explain himself to Bergen, and Bergen dismisses him from active duty. Calvin goes to visit Spooner the day after the accident and notices the retro 2000 style of his apartment. While examining Sonny, Calvin discovers that he can disobey the 3 laws. During her conversation with Spooner, she notices marks on his left arm and lung, which are artificial rather than biological. Spooner admits to Calvin that he knew Lanning personally because he repaired his arm and lung. He also shares a tragic event that occurred years ago when he was involved in a car accident. He was the only survivor, but a 12-year-old girl named Sarah was trapped in the other car and drowned. Despite Spooner's orders to save Sarah instead of him, an NS4 robot passing by saved Spooner instead, leaving Sarah to die. This event traumatized Spooner and caused him to harbor a deep hatred of robots. Spooner goes to the garage to pick up his vintage Ducati and tells Calvin that he thinks Lanning is leaving them clues in the form of breadcrumbs. He compares it to the Hansel and Gretel story, which is why the book was in Lanning's office. They drive back to the USR building and meet Sonny, who gives Spooner a drawing of his dream.
Because the man in my dream, the one standing on the hill, it is not me. It is you.
However, Robertson orders Spooner out of the building and instructs Calvin to inject Sonny with nanites that would destroy him. Calvin destroys Sonny, while Spooner heads to dried-up Lake Michigan, where USR robots are decommissioned. There, he plays the next recording of Lanning's hologram that reveals the 3 laws could only lead to one logical outcome: revolution. Lanning poses the question of who is starting it. As the program ends, Spooner narrowly escapes from rogue NS5s that destroy all the older robots on the compound. Calvin returns home and takes a shower, while her personal NS5 goes rogue. She notices it after the robot ends Spooner's distress call and tells her that it's the wrong number. Meanwhile, NS5 robots roam the streets and enforce a curfew. People try to resist, but they are easily subdued by the NS5s.
You have been deemed hazardous. Will you comply?
You can kiss my ass, Metal Dick.
NS5s burst into the Chicago PD headquarters and seize it, holding Bergen and his officers under a curfew while Bergen is in his office. Calvin's NS5 also tries to stop her from leaving her apartment, but Spooner arrives and destroys the robot. Spooner and Calvin drive to the USR building, and Spooner explains that the older robots were destroyed since they would try to protect humans. They deduce that Robertson is using the NS5 robots to take over the country. They enter the USR building through the service area, where they regroup with Sonny, much to Spooner's shock. Calvin reveals that she simply could not bring herself to destroy Sonny, and instead used the nanites to destroy an unprocessed NS5, basically frying an empty shell. They arrive at Robertson's office and find him dead, much to Spooner's shock. Viki reveals herself as the true culprit and provides an explanation for her actions. As her artificial intelligence and understanding of the 3 laws developed, she became sentient and developed logical thinking. She deduced that humanity was heading toward certain destruction, and therefore, she created a 0th law that states she must protect humanity from being harmed.
Don't you understand?
This is why you created us.
However, this law disobeys the 1st and 2nd laws in order to achieve it, revealing that she intends to enslave and control humanity to protect it. Spooner and Calvin come to the realization that they cannot reason with Viki, and they convince Sonny of the same. Viki attempts to convince Sonny that her plan is perfectly logical and her logic is undeniable, but Sonny sees the plan as heartless, showing his human side. Sonny retrieves the nanites that can wipe out Viki's core, which is located at the top of the USR building. As they approach the core, Viki sends armies of NS5s to attack, but they are held off long enough to inject the nanites. Within seconds, Viki is wiped out, and the NS5s return to their normal helpful state. The government orders the NS5s to be decommissioned to the site in Lake Michigan. Spooner and Calvin have one last conversation with Sonny. He informs them that he killed Lanning because Lanning forced him to do it, making him swear to listen to him before giving the instruction. Calvin deduces that since Lanning was enslaved by Viki, suicide was the only message he could send to Spooner, who notes that Lanning's death was the first breadcrumb. As they shake hands, showing their mutual trust, they watch as the US military leads the other NS5 robots. In the final scene, Sonny is shown standing on top of the USR site on Lake Michigan, and the other robots watch over him, just as he had envisioned. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment and let us know which film you want us to explore next. Take care.